Dan Quinn is our guest today. Dan is with Rapala. Oh, I always say Rapala. Is it a Southern thing, Dan? Because I know it's really supposed to be Rapala, isn't it?
Officially, it is Rapala, but it's definitely a regional deal. And the adage kind of goes, say it however you want as long as you buy them.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I'm going to try really hard to say Rapala, but it's really difficult for me. Dan is a promotions manager, right? Field promotions. What is your official title?
Yeah, field promotions manager, which is a unique title, and I wear lots of hats, but that is my title.
And so what does that mean? What is a promotions manager for somebody, as if somebody was from another planet? Explain what that means.
Ultimately, I manage our pro staff. So both the big name national level bass pros to walleye pros to regional guides all over the country, from Alaska to New York to Florida to Minnesota. And so pro staff is a really broad term, but also all of our media partners. So the companies and TV shows.
Oh, wow.
Any sort of media entity, basically. And then a lot of the endemic media, some of the higher profile guys, a lot of the guys at Bass that need a guy who knows the industry and the fishing and the pros really well. So I'll coordinate interviews with our pro staff and kind of be the representative for Rapala, do a lot of different orchestrate a lot media events and filming and things like that. So it's a really fun job.
I mean, I'm sure it is a really fun job, and I envy you. I think your company is an incredible place. The people that I know that I've been lucky enough to get close to over the years are just some of the honestly, some of the nicest people I've ever met. And I'm sure you realize you're one of them, but I'm sure you realize how what a blessing that is. And people always say that Southerners are nice, but man, Minnesotans. There's a reason why they say Minnesota nice, and you guys
almost take it a little too far.
Yeah, that's right. I understand. So, okay, so how'd you get into this, Dan? I looked on your LinkedIn. What is Mills Fleet?
Mills, I'm really bad with LinkedIn. I probably haven't opened that up in a long
So, what's
time.
your background? How'd you get into it?
So what that was, Mills Fleet Farm is a store in the Midwest that sells fishing tackle. They sell clothes. They sell farming equipment.
Really?
It's like they call it the man's mall. It's just kind of, duct tape and power tools, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a really popular chain up here. And the reason I work there, I caught shoplifters. So
oh, wow.
I went to school for criminal justice, a 4-year degree. And then I went into the police academy and went through that, and my hopes were to be a game warden.
Oh, really?
Yep. So that's.
And then how did that evolve to Rapala?
Well, basically, I went through the police academy and went through lots and lots of application processes to be a police officer to get some experience, which would then lead into being a game warden, conservation officer. It's very difficult to land a job as a police officer, or it was at that time. I'm guessing right now it's probably not as hard, but I got the job with Fleet Farm to catch shoplifters, interacting with the police department and so on and so forth, a good stepping stone. All the while, my passion in life has always been fishing. And I grew up with my dad working at In Fisherman, and in 8th grade, I was working at In Fisherman, 8th grade all the way through college. So I'd already had almost 10 years of experience in the fishing world, and it never even dawned on me. But as I worked for Fleet Farm and caught shoplifters, I enjoyed it, but I lost interest in the law enforcement angle and just kind of, went through a little bit of a period talking to my dad. Said, Dad, what can I do in the fishing world? And oddly enough, it's funny that as we talked, they had the last professional walleye trail tournament in Hudson, Wisconsin, where I'd moved. And that's what I worked for through In Fisherman, the professional walleye trail. So as I'm helping them out with their very last championship in Hudson, where I'd moved to, and I hadn't been working with them much as of late, as I'd been trying to get into law enforcement, I met a guy by the name of Greg Wallner.
Oh, man.
And he went behind some fences and was kind of snooping around, and I had to go say, excuse me, we need to keep you over here. And he said, "Oh, I'm Greg Wallner." And I said, "Oh, great to meet you," so on and so forth. But funny
But you
story.
still got to get on the other side. You're Greg Wallner, but you still have to be on the other side of the fence, please.
Right. And I know you know Greg really well, so it's kind of funny. But long story short, I came to realize he's a vice president of Rapala. And it just kind of hit me like, man, that's a company I should really check into. And long story short, his neighbor was a friend of mine who was fishing in the tournament, and I had recently moved to Hudson. So I met up with my friend, and he said, "I've got a neighbor that wants to buy a fish house," which I don't know if you know what a fish house is, but
Yep.
up here, it's a cabin on wheels with holes in the floor, and you bring it out on a frozen lake. So Greg wanted to buy that, and I got kind of looped in with these guys and helped be a partner in it and move it around to keep it on fish. And just talking with Greg, getting to know Greg more, and I got my foot in the door with Rapala. And this was my dream job, but going into it, there's not much turnover. So they eventually had a customer service position open, and I jumped at the chance to get that and kind of prove myself that I'm committed to the company, I'm competent, so on and so forth. And within a year, this job opened miraculously, and they chose me for it, and the rest is history. So
yeah. Well, that's a great take-home lesson for anybody out there listening. You don't always start your career where you want to be, right? You can start anywhere you can find a little niche to work your way in. Agreed?
100%. Because I actually, to take it one step back, I went into college to get into herpetology.
Oh my gosh.
Which is maybe not what you think it is. It's actually the study of reptiles and amphibians. And I quickly realized that I'm interested in those critters. It's more of a hobby, not a profession. So
I think you're much better off doing what you're doing now. And
I don't know how it worked out like this, but it did. And I'm very thankful and fortunate and truly love my job. It's a cool, unique job. And with a great company. So
yeah. And Greg Wallner is no longer with Rapala. He works in another sort of related industry, but one of the smartest men that I've known in the fishing industry personally, and a brilliant guy, really smart about a lot of different things. And I imagine he was a good person to work with. I imagine you learned a lot from him, didn't you?
I absolutely. I owe getting a job with Rapala to Greg. He's still a great friend. We don't talk nearly as often as I'd like to, but he lives probably 4 or 5 miles from me. We're just at, different stages in life. I've got little kids and things, but no, Greg I really respect and admire Greg. He's a really great human being and really smart.
Right.
I do enjoy spending time with him. He was a great leader for our company.
Honestly, I think everybody I've met at Rapala embodies those same qualities. It's just amazing how the DNA of that company has been, it's a testament to good leadership that everybody that I know sort of has some of those same qualities. And that's what you want, right? That's what you want in a company.
It is. No, I really appreciate that. And I agree. It's when you have a great culture at a workplace like that, and people get excited about new products, it's contagious, and it helps. Everyone has a passion for it, and not everyone's as passionate about actually catching a fish, but they're passionate about the business and want us to be successful. And it's fun. It's a great company to work for. Yeah,
awesome.
Really
awesome. Okay, we're going to take a little short break, and then we're going to come back with Dan Quinn, the promotions manager. I hope I've said that right. Promotions manager at Rapala. Be right back. Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast, check out fishingbusinessschool.com, where you can see video uploads of the podcast, as well as my blog, where I give you more practical advice on the business side of fishing. fishingbusinessschool.com. Come see me over there. We're back on the Fishing Business Podcast. I'm Angie Thompson. My guest today is Dan Quinn with Rapala. I said it right. I'm from the South. I always say Rapala. I don't know why. It's just a thing. I can't say. It's so hard for me to say Rapala. But Rapala is actually owned by a parent company, the parent company Normark, which is Swedish. Is it a Swedish company, Dan?
Finnish.
Finnish.
Yeah, we're based out of Finland.
And that's fishing's a big deal over there.
Very big deal. Yeah. Yeah. Rapala is a really cool company in the historical sense
Mm-hmm.
that started with a guy hand carving a lure out of a piece of wood and wrapping a candy wrapper around it. I mean, the history runs deep with Rapala in Finland. And yeah, the fishing history of in Finland is really neat. And I got the chance to go there a few years ago, and it was just the coolest trip I've ever been on.
So it's truly a global company, and as you know, as you're part of your marketing job, you're appealing to people all over the world, not just in the United States, right?
You know that absolutely. That's one of the interesting things about Rapala, and we are a very large company and we're global. And what's cool about that is we make fishing lures for fishing situations and environments and different species all over the world.
Right.
We make great lures for catching largemouth and smallmouth bass in Alabama, but we also make great lures that catch barramundi in Australia or zander in Europe, trout in Russia. It's cool to see, and some of the real hero lures we have are lures that catch fish everywhere. And it all stems back to a minnow-shaped lure, the original floater that Lori Rapala carved in 1936.
And the cool thing about that is you can kind of synthesize all of that fishing knowledge from all over the world and put it into something that works in Alabama.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fish are fish. They like to eat other fish. And ultimately that's where it all started. And that's what we're still doing today. So it's cool. It's a really cool story and history and company.
So in your mind, what sets Rapala apart from other tackle brands?
It's hard to top that one that we play in that many markets. We have distribution in.
That's it then.
Quote me, don't quote me, 27 countries around the world. I mean, when you start thinking about the various fisheries and environments and markets that Rapala is in, it's really mind blowing. From carp markets and markets in Australia. Obviously, the U.S. is our biggest market, and that's where we have a lot of focus on the bass market and the walleye market. But the diversity of Rapala and all of our brands that we have underneath our umbrella of Normark, I think is what is cool and separates Rapala from other companies. Not to mention that most of our lures are made of balsa, which is a very difficult wood to work with and make consistent fishing lures. Yet that's our definite. I mean, that's what Rapala is all about, is our balsa fishing lures.
Love that. Okay, so what is the relationship like? You tell me more about what the relationship is like, because I have my own observations over the years. The relationship between the Rapala brand and its sponsored anglers.
So the relationship with Rapala and the anglers basically is ultimately my job. And I'm fortunate to be in the position that I'm in, where I definitely have lots of responsibilities, but that's one of the big ones for me. Mm-hmm. And I guess it works out well. I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with, and I know enough about fishing, and I have a really good relationship with all the guys I work with. Like, I mean, they're my friends, and some of them are my very good friends, and we talk virtually every day. So
that's my observation as I've seen, because as you know, through my career, I've seen a lot of different fishing brands and a lot of different pros be sponsored by different people. The thing I always noticed and was envious about with Rapala is it always seemed like y'all were genuinely friends and like almost family. It felt like the brand felt like these guys were their family. They weren't just paid shills to go out and try to help them sell something. It felt like family.
That's really cool to hear, because that's truly how it is. And I talk with them. I know them all well enough to say that the relationship we do have is unique. It's not the norm. And I think it's a real benefit to Rapala. It's hard for a lot of companies maybe to justify having someone like me there, but relationships are they're the foundation of the fishing industry. That's how you maximize your reach and your leverage with things. And it's all about relationships, and have a good, solid relationship with your pro staff that we invest a lot of money into is hugely important. I think if you don't have that and it's just a paycheck deal, you just don't get the passion and the enthusiasm and the full maximum support you could out of these guys. There's just no way.
Okay, well then, does it make it really hard then to hire new people because you take a big risk, right? What if you bring a new person onto the pro staff and they don't fit the family?
Yeah, it's interesting how it's where it was when I took it over and where it is today, and how the guys kind of blend together. It's not a perfect family, but I treat them as individuals. Ultimately, they are kind of a team to us. I talk to most every one of them about a potential guy that I'm thinking about adding.
Yeah.
And if I got a lot of negative feedback, certainly I would have second thoughts about it all. But I really study this stuff, so I kind of have a very direct avenue to who I want to add to the pro staff. And I guess it kind of what I look for is the credibility, and I want nice guys. I want good people, good values, so that with that, I've never had an issue, I guess.
So how do you, when you study it, let me ask you this, how do you watch people on, do you follow people on, if you're thinking about adding someone, do you follow them on social media? How do you find out more about them? How do you find out if they're really a good guy and part, would fit?
So it's changed in the maybe not even 10 years I've been doing this. It started, I would attend a lot of tournaments, and I would just kind of casually mill around and just interact with the guys I work with, but also just kind of be a fly on the wall here and there. And you really get a sense of what people are all about when they don't know anyone's watching.
Right.
So that's kind of how it used to be. And I'll ask the guys I work with, what do you think of this guy, or anybody, an up and comer that you've noticed? So they provide me a lot of good intel. But now it has social media has changed that quite a bit, where you can kind of spy on people from
afar.
That's
right. That's right. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, man, you need to you think you're just posting into your feed, but you're posting, everybody can see what you're talking about, and people everybody wants to just be careful with that is what I'm saying. It's gotten some people in trouble, and it's been very, very good for others. So you have to just be careful with because it's your brand. It's your personal brand is what's going on your social media feed.
100%. Yeah. It's amazing where it is today and how big of a deal it can be, for a lot of guys at a more regional level, until it hits a certain point, it's not all that valuable, I don't think, to a company, but it's a factor regardless. But ultimately you get, some of our top tier guys like Jacob Wheeler, Ike Anelli, Gerald, or Brandon. Boy, their social media is a huge part of what they bring, and they can, influence the market, influence sales through their strategic way of how they run their channels and post and help you sell products and market products in their way. And everyone does it differently, which is kind of cool to see that everyone has their own deal going, and there's no right way or wrong way, but
we're actually glad everybody does it different, because that's what makes it interesting. Okay. In the overall marketing mix at your company, so you have print ads, you have television shows, you have digital ads. How important is the sponsorship piece of marketing to the overall marketing mix? Your sponsorship of athletes.
It's important. We have a good sized portion of our marketing budget is earmarked and dedicated to pro staff. It always has been, and we have no plans to change that. Obviously, at the current time we're dealing with, things are in flux. We may have a little bit of a downturn, but ultimately we're going to be right back to where we were. And that's they play a big part in our in-store promotions, whether it's signage in stores. We want to use our promote our anglers, put their faces on ads in magazines, on digital, just they play a big part because they help get our message out. These guys have dedicated their life to fishing and fishing tournaments often and gaining that credibility. So they're a trusted person to the consumers. So Yeah, if it's a message from Rapala, obviously Rapala is going to tell you that everything they make is great and good. Just like if you're going to go buy a truck, Ford's going to tell you. But you want to have some people outside of there telling your story too, and leveraging their fan base and things like that.
Right.
So they're a big part of what we do with marketing. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then and we just talked about it a little bit, but then those anglers, their social media becomes kind of almost an extension of your social media, where you can push that message down through to consumers, right?
Their platforms are a big part of what they offer to us
Yeah.
to help. You know, I like things to be done fairly organically and not push
Mm-hmm.
and direct them as much. I like them to put their own spin on things and let things happen more naturally. I think it appeals more to the consumers and their fan base, and they all agree with me on that. So we kind of let things happen, but their platform is a big deal. That, like, I mean, just Gerald Swindle, the
Right.
pull he has on the core bass market in Alabama is incredible. And a lot of that is his social media. He's very active. He's dedicated to growing that and building it and being active on it. And it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
It's a huge part
And
of what he does.
his social media is not all about fishing. It's not all about the latest product, or it's not all selling. He's got a wide variety of content that he pushes out that lets people get to know him and like him and trust him.
100%. I think the most successful guys on social media, they know how to navigate that. A hard sale doesn't work to people. People don't want to be told what to buy. They want to naturally be curious about it, or believe someone telling them this is such a great way to catch fish, so on and so forth. But it's not always selly. It's just people want to kind of know who you are, and
Yeah.
it's just it's an entertainment thing. It's like
Yeah.
reality TV, but some element of
It
really getting to
is.
know people.
Yeah, it is the reality of your life, really. And I mean, I think that's what's so cool about social media is you can you can get a glimpse into, because there might be people out there that think, man, I would love to be a professional angler, and it's a bed of roses, and boy, they've got the life, and it's easy, and they're living on easy street. But then when you really follow some of these guys, you realize it's not all easy street, but it's still aspirational, and you're inspired by it, and you want to know more about it, because even though it's not easy, you still think it would be pretty dang cool.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah, people definitely get a lot more insight into what these guys actually do than they ever have. And I
Right.
think every day there's more and more insights into that, because 10 years ago, there were articles in Bassmaster, and there were, videos here and there, but people had no idea. It really looked glamorous and easy and fun.
Right.
But now
Right.
people these guys work so hard. I mean, they travel like carnies, and
Yeah.
they're just, how they stay positive, and they're eating dinner, getting interrupted like constantly.
Yeah.
That type of stuff they deal with. It's admirable. It's impressive.
It really is. Okay, so let's take one of those guys, or hypothetically, because we were talking about not being selly all the time. But what is your dream guy, your dream angler? What does he do on stage? Not the Bassmaster Classic, not not a major TV event, but a weekend regional tournament. What does your guy do on stage that is perfect in your wheelhouse for you? How does he talk about your product?
I guess it would be as organic as possible, and it would be genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So when things are really working with Rapala and an angler, or any company and a sponsored angler, is they're actually genuinely using your product, and they're passionate about it, and they have faith and confidence in it. That, say they won a tournament, and there's a few dozen people out there that are listening to them. I would hope that, and it doesn't always happen like this, but that they used one of our products, and they can say that, the reason I caught these fish with this lure, and just be very straightforward, not over the top, but just factual, that, hey, I caught all these fish on this lure in this color. Tell people exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And what's interesting with that is you get that type of dialogue out of a pro fisherman that's visiting a lake. that they might not come back for 5 years versus a guy that lives there and fishes regionally. He's probably going to fish that lake in 2 weeks,
right,
in a month. So it's interesting that guys at a regional level are pretty tight-lipped, and I get it. I understand it because I fish tournaments myself, and I don't want to tell everybody what I catch them on. But there's kind of a balance that's why a guy that travels and fishes on a national level is more valuable to a company. And and here's some negativity about guys saying, "Oh, these guys eat up all the money," but ultimately, the bigger the name, the bigger the platform, the more product they can help market and sell. So, but ultimately, that guys have to get started somewhere.
Well, and what I always tell when I'm coaching guys, what I tell them is, you got to remember that the person that's there watching is there for himself. He's trying to learn something from you. So if you can, if you can tell him something, if you can teach him something about his lake or if or any lake, put yourself in his shoes, and if you can wrap that around into something more than this is what I caught and this is how I caught it, just this is the bait I used and this is the weight I caught. If you can wrap it into a bigger story that helps teach them, then that guy's going to remember you probably, and you've done him a good service and you've done your sponsor a good service.
Yeah, especially if it's something kind of a different spin on something that people aren't as familiar with. Like we've got a new Tokyo rig through VMC that's been really amazingly popular, and it's catching on. And when people talk about it in a regional level, and people may not have any experience with it,
right?
They go to use it and have a positive experience. Well, that's a big deal, and that really extends through the grassroots. And that's what's happened with that particular rig. And a lot of guys have helped us do that without a lot of national exposure. It's kind of a cool story to.
Yeah, I like that. Love that. And that's with the VMC brand product.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And VMC actually owns Rapala.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Gotcha.
It does.
So now tell me about, you've been there 10 years. Is that what you said?
Just about. Yeah. 9 for sure.
So tell me about a transformation you've seen a pro go through in your time there to get better or to just some sort of transformation that you've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Because we all evolve, right?
100%. And it's interesting. I can't say that every single guy I work with has gone through this, nor have I been with them their whole entire career. But ultimately, a lot of guys that I've seen start from the very beginning and to get to where they are now, which would be a super high profile guy, they seem to all go through a period where they need money, which is fairly normal and expected. So they're willing to accept a lot of deals for maybe not tons of money, but a lot of, $2,000 or $5,000 deals. And that every deal they accept requires their time for some promotional days, whether it's seminars or sports shows they need to attend for that sponsor's behalf. But they also consume the space on their jerseys, their logos on their trucks, logos on their boats. The more they get of that, the less value they're giving to each one of them, especially the bigger ones who maybe really stepped out to support them at a title sponsorship level.
Right.
So, I remember talking with Brandon when he was, he just had so many sponsors. His jersey just was like, wow, really cluttered. I kind of like guys to have the epiphany on their own.
Right.
Where they realize I'm better off to part ways with some of these. I don't have the time. I don't have the time for everybody, let alone the big ones that are really supporting me, that I'm providing less value to them as they want to grow with me. So I've seen multiple guys have that epiphany where they realize, boy, this isn't the way to go. I need to invest my time in these bigger ones where I can grow and have less sponsors and keep my dollars, at a manageable level, but reduce my time with all these, side deals.
But you can get just stretched too thin. You have too many obligations to too many people, and you don't have enough resources to do a good job for anyone.
100%. Yeah, because I'm like, I might say, well, we're going to have a photo shoot on these dates. And they say, well, gosh, I can't do it because I got to do this or I got to do
Right.
that. And then you say, well, how about this date? No, I can't do this. So eventually the guys being available is a really big deal
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
especially maybe it's with lures, but we have product development going. We have, there's just a lot of things we want to get done, video shot. And the more available a guy can be, the better, the more valuable they are for the company.
So you need a guy to be available for photo shoots for your creative collateral. You need you need speaking engagement. You need personal appearances, right? You send them out to retail to do personal appearances, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I get it. It's a double-edged sword. The busier a guy is, well, the more active he is, and he's engaging more people. But at the same time, you need a balance, I guess, is what guys have to get to. And you'll see guys dive in and they'll jump at any little sponsorship. Yeah. And it's, they start getting sponsors like, wow, I'm sponsored. But eventually it gets to a point where, when you do have a sponsor, you have a commitment to them and you want to grow with that, but you can't if you're stretched too thin. So that is a very common transformation I think guys go through. Not everyone, some guys never get to that next level, but a guy from the starting to getting to the top, they certainly all seem to go through that.
Right. Interesting. That's very interesting. What do you see under the radar pros doing really well? Not the guys we see on TV, but maybe some regional guys or guys that are under the radar. What do you see? What do you see them doing well?
So it's different. Different guys have different directions, I guess, whether they're a tournament guy or maybe they're a guide.
Yeah.
Both have a lot of value to offer Rapala. I guess one guy, Cody Huff, he just fished in the Bassmaster Classic. He's a college angler, and he's got a bright future. A lot of people talk positively about him. He's well-spoken. He's active on social media. He's just he's doing a really nice job in establishing a career as a young college angler. And I see no reason why he won't have a long career in tournament bass fishing.
Right. He's a good one to watch.
Definitely. He's been doing a great job. But then a guy that is a really well-known guide on a popular fishery is a very valuable guy too. And maybe he is doing YouTube, and he's in YouTube and is doing informational things. He's credible. He's a fishing guide. He puts people on fish for a living. So he's got some information to share, and he can help in that specific area. He might not have national reach, but YouTube's giving guys more of a platform, and guys that are doing a really good job with YouTube are growing. I mean, in a big way.
Right.
So and you can't ignore that.
And there's something, when you trust a guy on YouTube, I guess it depends on the guy, but there's something a little bit different about it because a lot of times it feels very grassroots and it feels very, relevant and authentic.
It does. Yeah. A lot of it is fairly raw, and there's just guys are more after the quantity over quality as far as content goes. And I've been kind of an old school type of guy where I like the polished product of, the Bassmasters, Game Fisherman, the Linder Show, all that good stuff. But I get it that's what's happening. And it's a big deal.
There's room for both. We need both.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's kind of those two different directions as guys getting into it, and whether they're tournament anglers or guides, or maybe they just like to fish tournaments on the weekend. That's a tougher thing to get into, I guess, when you have a day job, and it's a flooded market. There's a lot of guys that fishing bass tournaments and all want to be superstars, but they can't commit to it. They have families or their job or whatever it is. So that's a little tougher. But a guy that's really committed and is truly a professional, they're fishing for a living, whether they're guides or tournaments. There's different things they can do. But what I've noticed is they typically stand out. The really good ones, to me, they're easy to pick out for me. Just watching a lot of what's going on out there, it's the good ones stand out.
So. How? What do you see? What is it about them that stands out?
it's kind of a gut feeling I get around guys.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that some you can't ignore. If you keep hearing about guys, keep seeing their names pop up, seeing a cool picture.
Yeah.
Certainly, if it's a guy that
Just
wants to be on like the Rapala's pro staff, and they send me, or share pictures to our social media channels, really nice, cool pictures with our products in them, they're going to get my attention really quick.
Of course. So that's a good segue into if what's your advice for a young angler who doesn't know anyone, who doesn't have contacts in the fishing industry and needs to try to figure out how to build that? How do you do that?
It's challenging. I think right now there are more young people trying to get into it and more people that want to be pro fishermen than ever. The more that are trying to get into it, the harder it is. For me personally, credibility is really big.
Yeah.
So I think you need to just go and fish and learn how to fish and become a really good angler. Lots of different techniques. And I think it was Mark Zona talked about hitting the steps of a ladder, that as you start really small, start local bass club, and don't get to the next rung of the ladder until you're ready. And don't ever think about skipping if you skip a rung, you will fail. You will fall on your face. It's just how it goes.
I totally agree.
So many times, but I've got a guy that many of your audience and viewers probably know, Seth Fighter. Well, Seth lives near me, and I kind of knew of Seth, and then he started fishing the opens, but he was a really good fisherman locally. And I just started, giving him a discount on product, give him some product. And then he did well. And then he finally qualified for the elites. But he just focused on fishing. He wanted to hone his craft and his skill set of catching bass. If he can do that well enough, you need to be able to do that well enough to be competitive in a super competitive tournament world. That has to be your priority, I think.
All right. We're going to take a short break and come right back with Dan Quinn from Rapala. I really want to hear from you to know what kind of questions you have and how I can serve you best in this podcast. The easiest place to reach me is probably at Facebook or Instagram, where you can find me as Fishing Business Podcast, or on YouTube, but you'll have to search for me there by typing in Fishing Business Podcast. Holla! All right, we've got Dan Quinn from Rapala with us today on the Fishing Business Podcast. Dan is the field promotions manager for Rapala, and that also includes some other brands. I was neglectful in not pointing that out. Rapala and VMC, and what else?
Yeah, so VMC owns Rapala, and then underneath VMC and Rapala would be Storm.
That's right, Storm.
Terminator, Lure Jensen, Suffix Fishing Line.
You got a lot.
As a saltwater brand, yeah, we have a very diverse portfolio, and now we were 49% of 13 as well. And as of about a month ago, I'm now managing their pro staff as well.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Okay, so what is one habit in business or in life that you would recommend a beginner in business adopt?
A beginner in business in general, or fishing business? Or
fishing business. Let's say fishing business.
A habit?
Yeah. What is one habit? Like I swear by getting up in the morning and writing out my day of what I have to do and what I want to accomplish and what my large goals are and what my small goals are. That's just one thing for me business wise that has really helped me. So is there something like that? And like I said, maybe it's not even business. Maybe it's life. Maybe it's, don't go to bed angry, or make sure you say your God bless yous every night. But what is something that you as a successful business person could pass on to say, here's a little tidbit of advice for you?
I mean, maybe it's a little cheesy, but the golden rule of treat people how you want to be treated.
I love that.
I just grew up that way with my parents, and I teach my kids that, and I do that to everyone I meet, period. Doesn't matter. I think if you do that, if you're honest to someone, they should be honest back to you. It's just, multiple different scenarios, but ultimately do things and treat people how you want them to do things for you and treat you, I guess.
I love that.
It's simple, but it really, it's appropriate for me. It's
Yeah.
worked well. So
Listen, hey, buddy, it's appropriate for everybody. Who do you recommend we follow? If somebody wanted to learn more about marketing in general, not necessarily fishing, but marketing, who do you follow? Who do you look to for new ideas and inspiration?
that, I may not be the best one for this one. I'm like an unorthodox marketing person. I didn't go to school for marketing.
You just go by instinct.
I'm a total fish head. Yeah, I think I have good common sense, a good gut
Yeah.
instinct. So I guess I'm not all that. Maybe my boss shouldn't watch this, but I don't follow like some real marketing professionals as much as probably some people do.
That's all right. That's all right. That's okay. You don't have to.
For me, I like to monitor and look at a broad selection of people and industries. I love hunting, so I do watch a lot of hunting stuff. I obviously all over the fishing world. Yeah, I guess I'm ultimately a fish bum, and
I love that. I think that's good. Okay, what about a business person you admire?
A business person I admire, I guess I can't not say Greg Wallner.
Yeah.
I think Greg is just a real admirable person. He's just super intelligent. He's smart. He's fun. He's just a well-rounded, awesome, smart guy that I've always admired.
Agreed. I feel the same. I really do. And I actually admire you too, Dan. And I do.
You.
And I love the way you conduct yourself. I love the way you do business. And I love the way you personify the Rapala brand. And, I feel I have a lot of love for that brand, and it's hard. Sometimes I'm not sure if is it the product I love or the people I love or what the brand stands for that I love, but it's a great brand, and I'm feel really blessed that I know you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Angie. I really appreciate that. And likewise.
Okay, I've got a couple of key takeaways from that conversation, and I'm curious if you all share my thoughts. My 3 favorite quotes. It's all about relationships. Dan said relationships are the foundation of the fishing industry, and I agree with that. But I'm going to take it a step further to say all business is all about relationships. All successful businesses are all about relationships. Think about it. What's your favorite restaurant, your go-to spot? It might not be all about the food. In fact, I bet it's your favorite because the servers are nice to you, and the manager might come over to say hello and check on you, and somebody says, did you enjoy it? What about your car dealer? The woman that cuts your hair? You make so many choices as a consumer because of relationships. And Dan is saying that he has a true relationship with his pro staff, and his pro staff has a relationship with their fans and followers. Take a look at the Rapala pro staff and think about whether you feel an affinity for any of those folks. Like you might feel like you know them. So start now, no matter what you aspire to in business, start now building relationships. Okay, number 2, people don't want to be told what to buy. Absolutely. A hard sale usually doesn't work. People want to be naturally curious about a product, or they want to believe someone when they tell them it's a good product. It's the know, like, and trust factor again, y'all. People need to know you so they can like you, and then they'll trust you. And when they trust you, they'll want to buy from you. And finally, start on the first rung of the ladder and don't think about skipping a rung. Start small, learn how to fish really well, start some relationships in your area, in your region, and grow from there. Hone your craft of catching bass, but also hone the craft of marketing, which is what we're doing right here. I'm going to close for now. Thanks so much for being here with me. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Let me know your thoughts. Leave me a comment. Come see me on social media. You can find me at Fishing Business Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. I want to serve you. So let me know what you want to hear more of. I'm going to sign off now. The water's calling and I got to go. Signing off the way my favorite fishing show host always signed off. Jerry McInnes always said he wanted to thank his dad, and me too, because he always had time to take me fishing. Holla!